You're smart, you're motivated, you want to do something big. You're on the verge of being a young boss, and we're going to help you get there. I'm your host, Isabel Garino, and welcome to the Young Boss Podcast, where youth is your power. Today's guest is the Mission-Driven Leaders Co-Pilot. Her company makes the lives of leaders easier by helping visionaries scale their operations from little to big or from big to bigger. Working with leaders in syndication to content creation and everything in between, her team is the one you want in your corner when you're ready to grow your business and get your life back. I'm excited to introduce the founder and CEO of Organized to Scale, Staci Gray. Staci, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Isabel.
As soon as we started, I was like, I want you on the show, right?
Yes.
We talked about it right in the very beginning because to me, what you do, everyone listening who owns a business really needs to learn how to do their systems and how to work with the visionary integrator relationship and all these different things that EOS does.
Yes.
And Organized to Scale helps businesses do. So tell me about your journey with Organized to Scale.
Well, it started when I actually was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, looking back now, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And like young boss, that was really young boss. And everybody was older and what's this girl doing?
Yeah.
But I graduated high school at 16.
Yeah.
And my dad did not want me to go to college.
Okay.
So he said, come work with me for 2 years. And if after 2 years you want to go to college, you can.
Okay, I like that.
So, yeah. So I worked with him for 2 years, bought my first property at 18,
Yep.
then bought a Mercedes convertible.
You're like, I've got to keep working now.
Exactly. So never went to college, but how I started was I was answering the phones because we had a real estate education company.
Yep.
Still do.
Yep.
And answering the phones, taking the registrations. And this is before e-commerce. So I was taking credit cards over the phone, typing it into the little keypad. And I think maybe like 3 or 6 months in, I went to him and said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And he said, well, that's fine. You have to hire and train your replacement, and handed me a copy of E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Okay.
And so that's how I learned about systems and standard operating procedures and just the duplication process of organizing to scale. And then later I built, I became the president of that company. Now the term, I think we call it integrator of that company. And then later I went and built other companies. So a turnkey real estate business in the Great Lakes area. And then my dad called me when my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And asked me to come run the businesses again.
Amazing.
And I came back and did it. And that's when we actually discovered EOS and implemented our version of it. So we aren't purist EOS folks, but implemented our version of it. And that is actually what became Organized to Scale because everyone saw the success of it.
Yeah.
We were more profitable, more organized, more systematized, more time freedom. And so they started asking me to do for them what I had done for our family businesses.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had no idea if I could be an integrator for multiple businesses.
Right.
And scale teams at that capacity.
Yeah.
And turns out you can. And that's how Organized to Scale came to be.
That's amazing. And I know that obviously all of your background and experience, most of it was on the integrator side until you started your own thing, and then it became on the visionary side. And I've mentioned your name before in the podcast because there's very few people who make that shift, if ever. It's not a normal shift or something that is probably recommended, right? But what has that been like for you to, now be in the visionary role?
Well, in hindsight, I wish I had more foresight about what the journey was going to be like.
Yeah.
I score very high on the Visionary Integrator test for both.
Yeah.
So I just recently retook it, and I was like a 93 Visionary and 88 Integrator.
Yeah.
So I score very high on both. And previously, I was a higher Integrator and lower Visionary, but still over 80 for both.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what that journey was going to look like because when you are an integrator, you're so organized, you dot your I's, you cross your T's, you're systematized. And then when I went into the visionary role, well, first I tried to sit in the visionary and integrator role at the same time.
Yeah.
Do not recommend. That is very hard.
Yes.
Because the integrator role is internally focused and logical, and the visionary role is externally focused and expansive. Let's just say shiny pennies.
Yeah.
And so I tried to sit in both and failed miserably.
Yeah.
And then moved into the visionary role.
Okay.
and really tried to do the visionary role the way I saw it modeled, which was a little bit more chaotic or spastic, if you will.
Okay.
Like, you know how visionaries can be. They just running all around, papers everywhere, not super organized. And that did not work for me because I'm a very organized person. I have a motto: if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And everything gets put on the calendar, from what time I wake up to my workouts to everything.
I love it.
And then I tried to be the opposite.
Yeah.
And I turned into a spaz.
Yeah.
So then I realized I had to integrate my own visionary.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Organize yourself.
Yeah. Organize myself as the visionary.
Yeah.
And then really, I think the biggest shift for me was teaching my team, not telling them what to do, because as an integrator, we're a lot more tactical. So we say how to do something. Yeah. Whereas as a visionary, we have to say what. Like, this is, I want this metric, this KPI, this is what success looks like, this is what done looks like. Yep. And that was a big shift.
Oh, yeah. I think even for me, as I have made the shift, right, is I still will go into like the how. Yes. And then I'm like, stop. If I keep doing this, they're not going to learn. Like, that's not my job. I just need to be like, that's the end product that I want, and pull back, right? And it is hard because our minds already know the how and how to get there. And it's like very clearly laid out in our minds.
Yes. Well, and have you found this too? Like, because they know I know how, they're almost more timid and nervous to do it, because I know I've been there, done it, sat in their shoes, and they can't pull a fast one on me. No. Because I know everything. And so I feel like it puts extra pressure. Yeah. And then I try not to put the extra pressure, but it's just there because it's who I am. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a shift.
It is a big shift. And I feel like almost I agree. I saw visionary in a very different light. You know, both of us have worked with our fathers, right? And so I think being his integrator, it was easier because I knew things about him that maybe you wouldn't know in a corporate world or just with a stranger who you're now getting hired to work with. And now my integrator, I didn't know her before this job. I had no previous relationship with her before this job. So she's had to like really learn me and do this. And it's been fascinating to kind of see how fast like I could pick it up versus maybe someone else could pick it up, and just that relationship.
Have you done this? Because I just did this, and this has been kind of a game changer for me. I created a how to work with me document.
Oh.
And it's like all my pet peeves, how I like to be communicated, how I like to be emailed, what I want on my calendar, how I want meetings prepped. And if they know how to work with me, they actually know how to work inside the organization. Yeah. This is how you can be successful here. Yeah. It has helped a lot.
Okay, how to work with me. I like that. I'm going to have to work on it.
I know. First, when I created it, I was like, is this narcissistic? Like, this is how to work with me? But I'm like, no, this is a manual.
It's a cheat sheet.
It's a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if it's going to make their life easier, then why wouldn't they want it, right?
And I have this belief that most people want to show up, do a good job, add value, and go home at night feeling fulfilled. Yes. And so if I have a playbook for how to do that,
then why wouldn't you follow it?
Yeah, then why wouldn't you follow it?
No, I love my integrator, and I called her the other day because I like went to therapy, and she's like, hey, I think you're sick because I'm stuffy. You know, she's like, I think you're sick because you're overworking yourself. Like, you know, you need to calm down. And I was like, well, I took control of my schedule for the last 3 weeks, and I've had back-to-backs from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for 3 weeks. She's like, yeah, don't do that. And I called my integrator after. I'm like, help. And she's like, I was trying gentle parenting. I was waiting for you to call me and say you failed. And I was like, please take everything back. I don't want to be in control. She's like, I knew it.
I know. My assistant one time, when I had a 3-week period like that, she's like, I blocked your schedule and you're going to get an IV and a massage. And she had booked all this. I was like, yes, thank you.
Okay, so your integrator obviously the integrator's role. I always like to say it's not to necessarily say no, but it's going to feel like no to the visionary, right? It's to tell you no in other ways, right? To make you come to the conclusion that it's a no. Yes. But have you run into that yet where she's told you no, and have you been like, wait, what?
Yes. Actually, I love this. I like saying no. Yeah. I actually like being told no from my team. Yeah. But not in a, I'm telling you no. I'm telling you no to all the things that are preventing you from achieving your vision.
Okay.
That is a different kind of no.
Yeah.
Because visionaries come all the time with like all
crazy
ideas, and you have your 3 to 5 priorities or your 3 to 5 rocks in a 90-day period.
Yeah.
And yet we come and we're like, oh, but Rich Dad called me and now I can go do this, or I've got this opportunity to JV with so-and-so. And they're like, okay, excited. And then like, wait, like this is going to dilute all of our capacity.
Yeah.
And so it's really critical to be told no.
Yeah.
And this recently happened to me with mine. I asked her to do something that I thought was something, it was mind mapping, a project that I thought I had articulated enough times that she could mind map it.
Yeah.
And she told me, I don't think this is for me to mind map. I think it's for you to mind map. And I was like, she's right. Because how many times have we delegated thinking as visionaries?
Yeah.
Because we just are like, get it done with, take it. And also I think you and I, maybe working with our fathers, we had that level of trust and could almost think the way they thought.
Right.
And so when I lean on them now in that capacity, is not really fair.
No, they don't know what's in our minds.
No. But we're mind readers with our parents.
Yes.
So we can do that.
Yes, I agree. That is funny. Okay. What's the main thing that you see when entrepreneurs are coming to you? Is it lack of systems? Is it lack of, understanding, communication? Like, what are the top things that they're coming to you saying, like, help, or you're identifying as these are your issues?
I would say it is summed up in systems, but I think there's 3 types of systems organizations have to have. I think they have to have psychological systems, structural systems, and social systems. Okay. So psychological systems this is how we think, this is our identity, this is who we are, this is how we resolve conflict. Yeah. And then structural are just branding, lead gen, marketing, fulfillment, ops, what you think of, CRM, website, all of that structure. And then social is the accountability and the tribe and the community and your audience. Yeah. If you don't have all of those working together, then if you don't have your psychological right, then it disrupts your structural and your social. Yeah. And then if you have your psychological right, but you don't have your structure, then everything implodes when you put your foot on the gas pedal. And then if you have all the social and the accountability, but you don't have structure and psychological, you don't have any traction. Yeah.
It's interesting because I think most people who go in, if they hired you, they probably think, we're going to sit down for a couple of days and do SOPs, right? And like, that sounds way more fun, right? Yeah. It's like, how are we going to get through disagreements? How are we going to agree on deadlines and things like that? Plus all of the, tactical stuff. But I think that sounds like a lot more investment in the culture and the actual system that the business is operating in on a day-to-day. Right. Yeah. I love that. Are there any major resistances that you see from like so many visionaries that you're just like, oh, I know that we're going to always face this pretty much? Like,
well, I mean, you're a maverick on the culture index. You do not want to be disciplined or tied down or instructed to go in any direction at all. Yeah. So I always say, okay, we're going to be like bumper, like we're playing bowling. Yeah. Or I don't know if you play bowl. I don't know how you do it. We're bowling, and we're the bumper guardrails. We're just like, okay, you can have you can be a little bit crazy within a window, but you got to be within that window, because if you're just moving lanes all the time, it's really disruptive to the operations.
Yeah. And it can be. I mean, it's fun. I love like all the little masterminds I go to where I get to hang out with all the visionaries, because they are all shiny penny and they're all just telling me all sorts of things they're doing. And because I have like that dual mindset, part of me almost does sometimes rein myself in a little bit already, just naturally. Right. But I'm like, they have no rein. No. Like no rein. None. So do a lot of them even resist have you had companies that come that don't even have an integrator, or that they're just resisting getting one?
I don't know that they're resisting getting one, but yes, I've had them come where they don't. So I think I have 2 groups. One where it's the visionary who put their foot on the gas pedal and they just went and they created a mess. Like their business looks like their kitchen junk drawer.
Yeah.
Like that or the person who's really eager to get going, but they don't want to get trapped and they have the foresight to know that. Okay. And they're coming in a little bit more methodical and disciplined. Yeah. Those are obviously easier to work with, but the chaotic ones have proof of concept. They know that they have something the marketplace wants. Yeah. And so if you have just a little bit of structure, they can put their foot on the gas pedal and go. Yeah. So I don't know that they are resistant completely to the structure, but the part that I think is a struggle is slowing down to go faster. Yeah. So they would like to do it, but they would just like it all done yesterday. Yeah. Wouldn't we all? Yeah. It's the pace.
It's the pace. When do you think is the right time for a business to hire someone like Organized to Scale to come in and say, help, you know?
My answer is it depends, because I think we're all wired differently. I have seen some visionaries who their risk meter within themselves, they're very comfortable taking on a lot, getting in over their head and still executing and moving things forward. Yeah. And then there's some people who are paralyzed by that. So if you have the personality that can't lean into that chaos and still thrive, then get Organized to Scale faster. Yeah. And sooner. If you are the type of person that overanalyzes, then you probably need to get pushed on the dance floor a little bit. Otherwise, you'll never have a business.
Right. What I feel like a lot of the people that I interview, they're younger, right? Obviously, it's young boss, it's young professionals, and they're coming in, and a lot of times they're still in the phase of they're doing it all, right? They don't really want to hire out yet, or they're scared of having employees. What does this look like? Or independent contractors, whatever. How do you feel about the delegate and elevate, thing that's out there that everyone's like, hey, if you want to go far, you have to build this out?
Yes. So I just read a book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Okay. You'll love it. Okay. So it's this concept of scaling by not choosing roles within your organization to delegate. But, delegate and elevate with EOS is you make a list of what you like to do, what you don't like to do, and then you delegate the things that you don't like to do. Right. It's that same concept, but you do it to get leverage points back. So you look at your list, and if I gave this up, how much mental capacity would I gain back? And then delegate those things, so then your capacity goes up and you're focusing on needle moving things versus just tasks to get off. Yeah. Which is a little bit different than the delegate and elevate concept. And I feel like that's really helpful when you figure out the biggest pain points inside of how you're spending your time. Yeah. And what is it weighing on you psychologically? Because if you're spending time in the shower and driving, thinking about problem solving things that are tactical that you could easily get off, whether it's like, oh, I need to schedule the cleaners, or I need to buy that gift, or I need to run to the store, all of that takes up brain power. Yeah. And so if you can get all of those types of things off and you're thinking about the next strategic move or the alliance or campaign that you can move forward, that's going to drive revenue in a way that not just delegating whatever could do. Yeah.
Hey, it's Isabel. Thanks for listening to the Young Boss podcast. I recently wrote a book called Young Boss, and it's filled with top tips I've learned over the years on how to survive and thrive in business. Pre-order your copy now by heading to the link in the podcast description. Now, back to the show.
What pet peeves do you have in business as you're working with so many business owners? What are things that trigger you?
I have one pet peeve, and I think it's encompasses so much, but I hate laziness.
Good. You should. We all should, right?
It drives me nuts, but it manifests in so many ways. Yeah. And I feel like really what laziness to me is not being resourceful. There's really not an excuse to not know something, not figure it out, not to address something. Yeah. If you don't do that, you're choosing to be lazy. And it drives me nuts.
Okay, so how do you build a culture of people? Is that something you're pre-asking them in your interviews, like on your team, right?
Are you lazy?
Right.
Are they going to say yes or no?
Right. Like, do you have a test that you do with them, or do you just set the tone up front? Like, this is my expectation. How do you deal with that?
We have it in our onboarding. So it's definitely an expectation setting. Yeah. And then I think it's a culture thing. Yeah. So when everyone in the culture is doing it, then new people fall in place. Yeah. And I call it out. So I think it's leadership by example. Yeah. So if I see something that I don't think is correct or right, or instead of me being like, well, so-and-so said they were going to handle it, so I'll just let them, I'll create a loom, I'll send an email, I'll send a text and be like, hey, I'm sure you're on it, but I noticed da-da-da-da-da. And I think when you set that tone, then they really reflect back what you're modeling.
Yeah. And if I feel like I've noticed so much now on the side of running my own business, whatever my natural core values are, I could write them on the paper and say, this is what it is for the business. Whatever mine are is what's going to shine through the most and what they're going to try to emulate the most. So I didn't realize, like, one of our core values is being efficient. And we describe it as being fast and focused, right? And I respond to emails quick. I try to respond to everything quick. And that's just who I am. It's always been who I am. I didn't realize that now with me being in charge, it like set the tone for all of them. Like, yeah, we have it there. And yeah, I want you to be this way. But they're all like immediately responsive. And I'm like, no rush. Like, take your time. And they're like, I'll get to you in 2 seconds. I'm like, okay. I'm just like, so it's like who you are. They're going to watch you and they're going to start becoming like you. So if you don't like a trait in yourself,
I know, I was just gonna say it works both ways.
It works both ways.
Like, oh shoot, like kids.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that was my toxic trait. Please don't do that again.
I feel like it works both ways. It could be very negative and it could also be positive. So you almost have to watch yourself and be like, when you start seeing it in them, do I want them to do this? Do I not want them to do this? How do I handle this? You know?
Yes. And having, I think even modeling how you handle that is leadership.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
We're going to have bad days. We're going to have high energy, low energy days. We're going to think we're making a strategic move. And then in hindsight, it was a terrible move.
Yeah.
And if we are not gracious with ourselves and we critique and judge and shame ourselves for those types of things, then we're actually modeling that's they should do when they make a mistake, which actually turns into a very toxic culture.
Yeah, it's you do have to, how you treat yourself, they're going to start treating themselves, you know? And again, pro and con, right? If you're too like, we'll get it next quarter. Yes. Now everyone's rocks are rolling over to next quarter and they're like, it's no big deal. And you're like, no, I needed that done.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, awesome. When is a business ready to come use Organize to Scale? And what does that process look like when they come to hire you guys?
Yeah, so as soon as you know that you have a business that is scalable, marketable, the marketplace wants it, or an idea that you've had on your head or heart for a long time, and you know that in 5, 10, 20 years, you are going to be kicking yourself if you didn't move on it or execute on it. Yeah. And you're committed to the idea, you're committed to implementing systems that scale, and you're committed to driving hard towards that and executing, that's a great time to come.
Yep.
And what we do first is we build businesses in 3 steps. So we architect, then build it, then operate it. So architect, kind of like real estate, you would create a blueprint. Like, this is what we're building. This is what it's going to look like. This is how it's going to flow. This is the aesthetic. So in business, this is the sweet spot. This is the vision, mission, values. This is where I want to live within my organization. This is the impact and product and service offering I want to provide to my audience. This is my ideal avatar, etc. Yeah. Then you have to go build that essential infrastructure, which is, think logo, website, business cards, branding, lead gen funnels, nurture funnels, engagement funnels, conversion funnels, fulfillment funnels. All of that has to get built. Yep. And how those things are supposed to be executed, like standard operating procedures, checklists have to get created so that you can operate it. And operate is where you would like plug in a property manager or tenant to run the day-to-day. And so we just do it in that 3-step process. And anytime there's a new product offering or a new business idea or new department in the ecosystem, if you will, then it just goes right back through that funnel.
Okay. Do businesses a lot of times come to you and they already have all that set up, but it's a mess, and so you guys will audit?
We call that a rehab.
Okay, there you go. I love it.
Yes, you have to audit it and see. And a lot of times when it's messy, there's some core things that'll still work, but then some bad patterns, if you will, that maybe were developed that need to be readjusted. Yeah. And then really getting the right people in the right seats after that to make sure that it's aligned with what really the business needs.
Yeah. For you, your business is very B2B, right? It's supplemental to other businesses. It's not like a normal everyday person is buying your product or services or anything like that. You are servicing companies and businesses. And so it's a little bit different. Did anything specifically draw you to that besides your experience? Or did it like click in your mind one day, like, this is kind of the category I want to be in?
I've thought about this because I think I fell into it.
Yeah.
And I've always been an organizer person.
Yeah.
Even from a little girl. I just like everything in its place, everything organized. And also I've been the person that everyone calls. So it was just the other day I got a phone call from a visionary and he said, I'm having a visionary day and I wanted an idea partner and just a thought partner.
That's nice.
Yeah. And so I'm like, wait, I should monetize that.
Yeah, you should. Call me anytime for visionary therapy.
Yes, exactly. So I think I kind of fell into it, but I do love bridging the gap between ideas and reality.
Yeah.
Like I've always enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
Because I think at heart I'm a dreamer.
Yeah.
And then in order to make that dream a reality, you have to be a doer.
Yes.
So I think I'm both. I think I'm a dreamer and a doer. And so I like co-piloting, dreaming with people, and then I like helping them do it.
Yeah.
And then empowering the team to really make it happen day to day. And at that point, I like getting out. I'm not a mundane, I cannot do the same task every day.
Yeah, it's like starting the engine, building the car, starting the engine, and then it's like, go,
drive. I'll be cheering for you.
Call me. I'll be AAA if you need.
Exactly. I'm AAA.
I like that. I think that's what I used to tell my dad is like, just he would like throw ideas and I would just be like, okay, great. Write it down. Here's going to be the budget. Here's the framework. Here's who it's going to take. And I could so clearly make even other people right now, my boyfriend will throw me ideas and I'm like, okay, here's what it takes. Here's what it's going to do. Here's what it's going to look like. Do you want to do it?
Yes. And if he sees the roadmap, he's like, oh no, that's too much work. I'm out.
Yeah. And it's just like, but I can so clearly see it. And I agree. It's not like, I don't mind starting it up, but then I don't want to necessarily keep it going, you know?
But there are people who are wired differently than us.
Yes.
And that's so critical. We need both.
Yes.
Not everyone is wired to be an entrepreneur or be that starter.
Yeah.
There is that term entrepreneur, which I think is so powerful because, with the gig economy and the way the world has been going, I think we've put a lot of emphasis on starting your own business.
Yeah.
Which I think is so critical. And I also think that you can kind of have a business within somebody else's business.
Yeah.
By being an entrepreneur, you can own a department, you can own a segment of it and really become an expert there. And I think the beauty of somebody who creates jobs for people is we let them do that.
Yeah, I love that. I like that term. And I agree. Yeah. I feel like everyone has been having this shift of mindset of saying like, I don't want to work for someone else. I want to work for myself. And it's not cut out for everyone because it is a lot of work usually. It's going to take a lot of your time, energy, money, stress, whatever it is. And a lot of people are actually not happy once they do it. And they say, never mind. I tell myself all the time, it'd be easier if I just went and got a job for someone else.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hands down. Your life would be so simple.
So much more simple, right? And I'm not saying everyone's jobs are simple. I'm just saying the mind power that you have to use every single day to keep this going and the stress that you have of feeding people who are not just your family.
Right. Yeah, that is a big burden.
That's huge.
Did you feel that more when you stepped into the visionary world?
Oh my gosh.
I know, I felt it too.
It's like, this is 50 people who I know their kids.
Yes.
Like I've been in their homes. Like they need to pay their bills and they have their own visions and goals. And if I don't do absolutely everything I need to do, they're not going to have the lives that they live. Right. And maybe that's exaggerated, right? Because of course they can go get a job somewhere else and it's not my job to pay your bills. It's my job to provide you an opportunity, right? But you feel that pressure. And I actually think it's a healthy pressure because it keeps me going because I care about my team so much.
Yeah.
It
is. It's an interesting dynamic too. And I think this is a much deeper concept than business, but I feel like naturally I'm a rescuer. Like I love solving other people's problems, and organized to scale in essence is solving other people's problems. Yeah. And sometimes that's not the kindest thing to do for somebody else because the kindest thing is to empower them to solve their own problems. Yeah. And so like you were saying, you're giving them an opportunity to have a job. Right. And that's them choosing to solve their own problem by having a job. Yep. And then they get the choice of how they show up and contribute and add value in a capacity that either gets them promoted or not. Yep. And in a sense, that is their business. Yep. Their job is their business. And when we over micromanage or over handle things for our team, sometimes we're disempowering them and leaving a little bit of that gap so that they can gain that confidence when they jump that and feel like they earned it. That's really a much kinder thing than doing for somebody what they can and should do for themselves.
It truly is. And I think that's a beautiful way to say it, because it doesn't all fall on you, but it sure does feel like it.
It does feel like it. It does.
Okay. How is Organized to Scale starting to use tech? Because obviously there's so much that you can do nowadays with even just SOPs and things of that nature. How are you guys using tech in the coming years?
We use tech quite a bit. We are actually building AI automation software.
Oh, awesome.
That takes all of our playbooks for the businesses that we run and converts it quickly. So you can fill out like a Google form questionnaire. Yeah. And then it will auto create with AI and technology some logo, business cards, website, funnels, nice. Everything. It requires an auditing team. So you still have to audit it and make sure that it's correct and do some things, because some of the things with AI are getting flagged in systems. Oh. So like social media or websites, if it's affecting SEO. Yeah. So you have to make sure that it gets stripped and done a certain way. Yeah. But we're working on that, which I think is going to be really powerful, because we'll be able to do the strategy side and really get the download of vision, mission, goals, ideal avatar, and then convert it into something a lot quicker that we can modify. That's one way we're using it. The other way is just ideas. ChatGPT and Bard, you can just ask it questions that prompts very creative ideas. Yeah. It can repurpose pieces of content very quickly. Reels, I mean, all of those things can go so much faster than it had been previously with hiring videographers and editors and so forth. Although you still need those folks in certain capacities, but some of the editing can be more efficient.
Yeah. I always think back to when everyone was kind of freaking out about AI. I feel like when ChatGPT kind of first was coming up and people started using it, and everyone's like, oh, all of our jobs are going to go away. I'm like, no, you're going to be able to have more jobs and do them faster now. So instead of being hired for 2 people, you can be hired for 10 people now, because you can do things a lot faster. Yes. So your life is going to look different, right? But if you learn how to use it when everyone else is sitting scared, you're going to be the one who still has a job.
I actually had this very same conversation with one of my team members, and they were refusing to use AI. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well then I'm going to have to find somebody that will. Right. Because this is the future. There's no way around it. You can opt out of being involved, and that's totally your choice, and I respect that. However, this is the future. Yeah. And we need to leverage it. So much so, like, even you can have AI join your meetings and take notes and recap everything. I've seen that. And we use that. And the other tech that I use that is not AI related, but so powerful, and I don't know if y'all use it, but Loom.
Yes, I love Loom.
We use Loom for everything. Yeah. It's all of our how-to tutorials. Yep. It's even feedback back and forth. So instead of emailing, we just send Looms.
I love it also because if you guys don't know what Loom is, it's like video and it transcribes. Yes. But it's like a video. It's basically like a little video you're sending back and forth to each other. Super easy to watch, super easy to film. You can be sharing your screen or just your face, or your screen and your face, basically. I love it because my team can hear my inflections. Yes. So when I write an email, it's like, I don't want to sound like an asshole. Right. I may be coming off aggressive. Yes. If I can send you the video, you can hear that I'm like, hey, like this is, and then they're like, oh, okay, she's not mad.
I have that same demon you have, where if they write it, it's like, oh, she's mad. And I'm like, no, I'm not mad. I'm just extremely logical, and I'm saying this. Yes. But Loom is helpful for that. The other thing that is great for Loom is, unlike Zoom, which I know those are super similar, but you would have to download the video, upload it, and save it. You don't have to do that in Loom. Nope. You can just put it in a folder, right quick, send a link, done.
Super easy. Yeah. I know. I literally sent 3 Looms this morning to my team. Exactly. To be like, is this what you're seeing? This is what I'm seeing. Yes. With laziness being one of your, big pet peeves, I could see that for you, obviously, because finishing school at 16, right? Mm-hmm. Clearly you had to be doing something, working a little OT to make it happen, and then jumping right into business. You are someone who just has lived by that value of saying like, no, there's always a way. No, I can always find a solution. So what has that looked like for you, that self-education to get yourself from being really a child, right? 16 is really young to be like, I'm running businesses and I know what I'm doing. Did you ever feel that like, I don't know, or how did you educate yourself?
Well, I always feel like I don't know. This is where self-education comes in. And I really think I got it from my mom.
Yeah.
Because did independent study. So I played a ton of sports growing up.
Okay.
And so I would go to school 2 days and then work from home on 3 days.
Yeah.
And when I would ask her to help me with my homework, she would say, go spend 30 minutes. If you can't figure it out in 30 minutes, come back.
Oh.
Well, I always solved it. So I never really needed her help. And I think sometimes we are so overwhelmed with what we don't know that we don't even invest that first step of trying to figure it out for 30 minutes. So what I've started to do is when I feel those tings of like, oh, I'm inadequate, I don't know what I'm doing, I feel overwhelmed with the idea of figuring it out, I literally set my timer.
Yeah.
And I'll just go see what I could discover in the 30-minute period. And you'd be surprised because you can Google, you can ask ChatGPT, you can make a list of people you could call that maybe would be helpful to helping you solve your problem. And I really have gone through the school of hard knocks. Yeah. So you've heard of the 4 levels of mastery, right?
Tell me more.
Okay. So you're no good and you don't know it. Right? So there's something that you aren't competent in, but you're not even aware that you need to be competent in it.
Okay.
And then you are no good and you know it.
Okay.
So you're aware of your lack of competency in an area.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest level because you're no good and you know it, and it feels really shitty.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd level is you're getting better, but it takes like intentional effort.
Okay.
And then the 4th level is it comes naturally to me.
Okay.
So most people have gone through this learning how to drive a car.
Yep.
Like they didn't even know about driving the car, and then they start doing their behind the wheel training, and they're like, oh gosh, this is a lot of things. Like I have to look at my rear mirror, my side mirror, and my lights and my windshields, all the things. Yeah. And then you get proficient at it. Yeah. And now people are just talking and texting and doing all kinds of things because they think they're masters. Yes. And then they get in an accident and they realize, oh, back to level 3.
Okay, I love that. And I think that's a really, really, really cool way to think about education. And I love that your mom did that too, because how amazing, because it truly is a lot of times you're asking for help because you're like, oh, I don't know. But if you just put in a little bit of effort, and if you didn't know, it wouldn't be a fail either to go back and be like, well, because you probably would have at least gotten a little further.
Yes. Probably when I would go to her, I was being lazy.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't even put any effort in. I just chose to go ask her. Yeah. And how many times do we do this in our team members do it to us? Yeah. Like they don't put in the effort and they come ask. Or we do it. Yeah. You know, where we could have just looked up at that document. Instead, we go to the team to get it from them. So I feel like it all dovetails into don't be lazy because you can figure anything else. You can be resourceful, and podcasts, books, YouTube, the best brains in the world have put their information out there for free. Yep. And if you're unwilling to invest the time to learning it, then really it's on us for not advancing our education.
It's true. Literally last night I was just like, for like a week, I've been like, I don't know how to, obviously the baby's coming. Yes. And we bought a stroller and I'm like, I don't know how to close it. Right. And for like a week, I'm like staring at the stroller, like, how do I close it? And then last night I searched a freaking reel. Like it was that short. It was like 10 seconds on how to close it. And I was like, oh, ting, 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 done. And I'm like, I'm an idiot for waiting a week when I could have just like.
Well, and then what also happens is we make it bigger in our head. Yeah. And so the longer we wait to set that 30-minute timer to just take that first step, we end up not even doing it. Yep. Or we end up asking, you probably asked your boyfriend, hey, will you do it for me? Because I don't want to have to figure this out because I've just made it a mountain when it really is a 30-second reel.
Yep. That is... I'm going to remember this forever. And now I'm going to always think about it every time. Like, just give yourself 30 minutes. Yeah. Just put some effort in, some self-education for 30 minutes. And if we can't figure it out, then we can call for help.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
I loved it. Love chatting with you.
How do people find out more about Organize to Scale and you? And if they're like, oh my God, my business really needs this, where do they find more about you?
I have a ton of free resources that they can get: a free ebook, a webinar.
Awesome.
All of my social handles, and if they send an email to scale@organizetoscale.com, they can get that.
Fabulous.
And of course, you can find me on social media at Staci Gray.
Perfect. We'll put it all in the show notes. So be sure to check it out. And if your business is needing, some help, someone to come around you and really see, help take you to the next level, Staci is your girl. So reach out to her at Organized to Scale. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Young Boss Podcast with me, Isabel Garino. Be sure to like, share, and follow on Instagram and TikTok and wherever you listen to your podcast. And let us know, are you a visionary or an integrator? Remember, youth is your power.